Hey there, my name is Pravus, and welcome to Lords and Villeins. Or Villains, if you prefer, that's also a correct pronunciation. Though I don't want you guys thinking I'm working with a bunch of mustache-twirling villains, so we'll go with Villeins. This is a colony simulator that we've actually played on the channel before, more in the realm of RimWorld or Clanfolk, where you control individual peasant families and help them build up a local economy. And actually, the economy is where this game starts to get a bit more complicated than you would think. It looks very lighthearted and cute, and it is wholesome. But then you realize that some of the economic undertones are kind of dire and serious and very involved. I'm looking forward to playing around with that today. It is developed by Honestly Games and published by Fulcrum, who are actually sponsoring a series of videos on this game. A big thank you for that. You guys can find a link in the description down below if you guys want to learn more. So let's go ahead and jump into a new game, shall we? Now, as I said, we actually did cover this game when it first launched into early access about a year ago. But a lot has changed since then, and some of these modules actually represent some of that. So we've got sickness, criminal acts. We also have different tiers of citizens, ranging from peasants to clergy, soldiers, nobles. Yeah, it's a lot of new stuff to take a look at. I'm gonna name my town Cinderborough. I don't know, because I kind of like it. I'm making this up on the spot, alright? Sue me. Also, we will be playing on a standard mode. I'm going to have a king instead of a queen, and for our terrain type, let's see, there's a few different options for us. I kind of like the look of the lake. I also like the idea of having a river of some sort. This could be kind of okay in the mountains, actually. Do we like that? Yeah, you know what? I kind of like the look of the mountains, but I'm going to go with a field instead. I think this gives me plenty of open space to work with. Now we decide on our ruling noble family, and this is us. So I have created Meister Bruce Simpleton. Yep, the Simpleton family shall rule. Meister Bruce Simpleton, you have been chosen to join the ranks of my closest vassals to take care of these lands. The king hath bequeathed me with a new plot of land, and I am responsible for developing it and paying taxes unto my liege lord. And so our journey begins. Now, there's a lot to look at in this game, and I'm not going to cover absolutely everything at the beginning, but hopefully you are going to follow along as we go. One thing I do want to note, though, unlike some colony sims where you have individual pawns running around that you can micromanage and control, this game is far more indirect and family-oriented. If we take a look down over here at our villagers book, we have 3 families currently involved in our village on top of the noble family that is representing myself. We have the Colville family, we have the Fourneau family, and we have the Patar family. Farmers, foresters, and fishers. Then, of course, we do have our noble domain family, who are these guys over here, the Simpletons. Okay, wonderful. So these guys are going to be given some plots of land. We're going to be building them houses and getting them some production buildings. We're going to turn that over to them, and they are responsible for producing as much out of the land as they can. They then pay some of their proceeds over to us in the form of taxes or goods, right? And that's the way we're going to be building up our economy, letting them do their thing and giving them as many tools to succeed as possible. It's a very interesting feudal indirect way of kind of exploiting the land. Now, with all of that said, instead of going for a feudal tax-based economy, I'm going to go for a kind of pseudo-communism, almost? I mean, that sounds a little bit weird, but trust me, it'll make sense in a little bit. Not full-out communism, we still have a ruling family. Like, what do you think I'm going to do, give up my power? Ridiculous, but we are going to be giving out resources for free to everyone who needs it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's click on the zones down over here, and this is where we can start plotting out land that I'm going to hand off. First thing I'm going to need is actually going to be a few households. So let's plan some of that out kind of close to my center of town. Let's say a 10 by 10 area to start. I think that's reasonable for kind of everything. And we'll go for maybe 3 houses like this to start, but we're going to need more eventually. So now that we have these household plots set out, what we're going to do is assign these to individual families. We click on this right here, and we can decide which family is going to receive it. So let's say with the Colville family over here. Now, there are different types of lend leases you're able to do. To start off with households, we can only do a fee farm, which is to say you pay some, land taxes to me every season, or we could go for, what is this called? Franco-Moinga? I don't know how you say that. I'm sorry, I don't speak French. But this is basically a way of just giving them the land, just for free. Nah, we're not going to do that. I want taxes. Taxes are good. So let's give a plot off to each family. This is now going to be their property as given by me. Now, within these household plots, we actually need to set up some homes. So let's say I want to click on this over here. There's a lot of different things we could place inside of a house, right? We have basic furniture, beds, shelves, campfires, barrels, storage, cooking places, etc., and people are going to need, well, pretty much all of that, to be honest. For now, let's just go for a hay wall setup over here. I'm going to leave a little bit of space in the back because I think that some storage could be warranted for each of these guys, but some basic housing like this seems kind of okay. So let's do that like so. Then we need to place down some simple doors. Wooden doors will do fine. Actually, let's place down furniture first. I like that better. Let's see. The Colleville family has the largest group by a long shot. Let's rotate around a quick bed, something like this. Plus, we'll have some smaller beds for all of the children's. So let's do something kind of like this along here. There we go. Not a lot of space for the Colleville family. We're going to give them a larger house later, but this should be enough to kind of get them going. Okay, that's some of the basics taken care of. Now, here's the thing. All of the people who live in these plots need their own resources to build their own homes, right? Just because we laid this out doesn't necessarily mean that they have the resources they need. What they would do is come to the center of town at a warehouse that I own as the lord of this region, and I currently hold all of these resources in my own inventory. They would happily come and buy some of these resources from me. However, I don't want them to spend some of their pitiful cash on these resources, not yet. We'll exploit them for all of that later. For now, I plan on giving this to them so that they are able to build out their homes. So let's place down a storefront in the warehouse so we'll actually be able to sell, quote-unquote sell, the goods for free to my people. Okay, so now we have a storefront. With that done, what I can now do is go to our warehouse book right over here. This lists all the resources currently at my disposal. I can grant these resources to my peasants, I can seize it from them, or I can say we want to trade it, open it up for selling. But again, I'm not really interested in selling. What we want to do is go down here toward, let's say, the straw. We know people need this a lot. We're going to sell a specific amount, let's say 600 of this, but we're going to set it for free, right? So if the peasants need some of this hay, some of this straw, they will come to the warehouse, they will pick it up, and they will go and build. We're going to need to do the exact same thing here with some of our wood, some planks, some stone, just basic stuff. You understand how this works. Okay, so what we're going to see now that we are manning the storefront is people are indeed coming over here, grabbing everything they need. They're going to come over here, they're going to drop off the resources, and they're going to start building up their homes. Perfect! That's exactly what I want to see. Now, while they're working on all of this, let's go ahead and plan out where they are going to be producing stuff, because I'm not just going to give them a home for free. No. This is all an investment, putting a roof over their heads so that I can then put them to work, right? So let's think this through for a second. We've got several different types of work zones, and I mean, there are a lot of them, specifically for peasants, but also the clergy, the nobles, and so on. Let's start with something like, let's say, a royal forest, all right? So this is where our foresters are going to be able to work, and they are going to start chopping down trees and processing wood. Let's say this entire area right here is going to be the royal forest. Just like with the housing, I'm going to go over here, and we are going to assign this to the Fourneau family. But there are different ways of cultivating the land, different agreements I can give them. Sockage would be one option, where basically we give them the land, they can do what they want to with it, but they owe me a certain amount of taxes. We could say like up to 75% of it must be given to me, and actually some to the clergy as well, which I've never messed with, but that'll be fun. But I'm not doing sockage. What I actually want to do is stewardry, which basically is you will give me everything you produce, but I am going to pay you a salary. So I get 100% taxation, but I also have to give them some money. Let's say for now a full 10, right? Because they're going to give me 10 silver per season in taxes, but then I'm going to give it right back to them and say, go ahead and work this, give me all of the lumber. That's probably not going to sustain them for too long. We might have to adjust this and give them more money if I find they're running out of funds, but for now that's going to work. So let's go ahead and grant them the royal forest. We're going to do some similar stuff with, let's say, some farmland out over this direction. Now, these farmers ideally would be living kind of close to the farm, so I might give them something big like this. But I'm kind of regretting which families received which. This would have been a better spot for a farm. Oh well, they'll have to walk a little bit. It's less efficient, but it's okay. Let's go for a longer area of, let's say, 18 by 10 to start. We'll probably grow this out a lot. And then also, let's set up a small little fishing pool, let's say down over this direction. And this is where the Batar family is going to be getting their trade. just like before, we're going to be giving these off in stewardry to their respective families. You know what, I changed my mind. Let's go ahead and place a farmland zone kind of out over here. And the reason I'm going to be doing that is the soil should be a little bit better quality closer to the river. So let's say maybe this 10 by 16 area kind of to start. Actually, maybe let's make it 16 by 12. That should be more than enough, at least for the moment. So now we're going to go to this farmland over here, and I'm going to assign it to the Colleville family. So just like before, let's assign this as some stewardry. Perfect. And now we're going to be building this out. So just like with the houses, in order to build out any of these zones, they need to get resources from the warehouse, hence why I still need to give a lot of this stuff away for free. Let's start by planting down some farmable soil closer to the river. How about... let's say 8 by 10 to start. 80 slots should be more than enough. It's a large family, though, so they should be able to farm quite a lot. But that'll be okay. Then we're going to go over here to adjusting priorities. And this is where we would be able to decide if we want to plant down trees, raise any animals, or we can prioritize the soil for different types of crops. Now, at the beginning of the game, I don't care about leaving any soil to regenerate its fertility. We'll leave that at 0%, but we may want to adjust this a little bit later. For now, I'm going to make rice a pretty high priority, followed by, let's say, some oats so I can get a bit of extra hay. Then after that, how about some carrots and parsnips as priorities? The rest are currently out of season, so I don't see them as very high priorities for me. But we could go for, let's say, some corn. If this becomes an option, corn's a pretty darn good food source. I like this. So we'll say that's a high priority, kind of like the rice. All right. With this done, what's going to end up happening is once these people build out their house, they're going to get what they need to start tilling the soil and automatically start planting the crops. We can do some similar stuff over here in the Royal Forest. I need at least a couple of saw horses, because this is where people are going to convert some lumber or some wood into planks that I can use for other building projects. So let's say something like that to start. And then we actually also want to get some storage. Mostly you bury a lot of stuff in a ground repository. So I'm going to go ahead and set up at least a few spots kind of like that. I'm actually going to do something kind of similar over here in the farming areas. Let's just have some nice storage spots. So when we get our crops together, we can drop them off in one convenient location. Over in the fishing pool, we need a couple things here as well. We need some fishing rods up along the coastline over here. And we also want probably a couple of fishing nets, assuming that I even have those resources. I think I do. Let's take a look at the warehouse and make sure that we grant a few wooden rods. Do we not have any? I don't think we have any wooden rods, so that's something we'll need to produce and get from our stewardship over here in the Royal Forest. We're going to need some wooden rods to give away, otherwise we can't actually get any of the fish up and running. But my point is I want to take a resource and I want to grant it to the Batar family so that they're able to do their jobs effectively. And actually, while we're here, let's go ahead and also give up some normal meals. Let's say 150 to the smaller families like this. So we give out 150 meals like so. And then maybe a few more, let's say 300 to the larger family for now. We just want to make sure that everyone has plenty of food to go around. Okay, so our farmers are already down here. They are planting up all the crops based on the priority listing I gave them to make sure that they divided out that away. The nets are down, and we'll be gathering up some fish, and we should be doing okay over here as well. Villagers need beds. Yes, that is understood. That's why I built a whole load of beds. Perfect. Okay, so night comes, time speeds up, they're just going to go to bed, then they're going to wake up and go back to work. Now, every season, they are going to take whatever they gathered up at their respective stewardry spots and drop it off in the warehouse. So until the next season, I have to make do with whatever resources I've currently got available to me. What are some other needs for our people? They are going to need things like, let's say, a wooden block. This is where they're going to be able to chop some firewood using some lumber, so they'll be able to keep themselves up and running. Not that we need anything there at the moment, but that's fine. I am placing down some dirt pathing inside the house, by the way. It's not actually a good floor, but it's free, and it looks a little bit better than just grass, so that's the only reason I'm doing that. There's plenty of other furniture we're going to need, though. So a cauldron is where they're going to be able to do some very basic home cooking, plus a cooking table. Wells are a good way of getting some water, of course. They'll need some shelves. They're going to want a campfire for heat, especially as we get toward autumn and winter. They need that, otherwise they're going to freeze to death. We also could place some roofs over these buildings, but we don't need to do that, at least for a little while. Instead, something I'm going to go ahead and do is go for a public area, let's say down over here. This will be a nice little spot, and we'll place down a community well well, let's say right down over here. That way people are able to fulfill their water needs. Not a lot to do for a little bit while we wait for some resources to come available though, so let's get up over here. So another thing I need to do is place down a manor. This is where my noble family is going to live. My own personal household. Recommended size is a minimum of 15 by 15, huh? Yeah, I don't know if I gave myself quite that much, but we can probably edit this thing out. If we click this button, we can edit the zone, and you recommend 15 by 15, huh? Wow, you recommend a much larger manor than I currently gave myself credit for. Fair enough. Let's go ahead and make it something huge like this. I love it. Now, attached to this, I'm also going to have space for a kitchen, which is going to be another building where my peasants will be able to cook some food, and also I want a cottage. Now, what is a cottage? A cottage is kind of like another household over here, but it's specifically for my own servants. Yes, that is a thing that we are able to do. If I go to, let's say, the Colville family over here, what I could do is select some of these guys and say, I want to make you into my own manservant, right? And they leave their family to come and serve my noble family directly so that my nobles don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting themselves. That said, I don't have a lot of people to spare right now, so I think we'll hold off for at least a little bit, but I plan on doing that soon. Now, what are some other things we're going to need? If we go to the farm, I need to get a flailing spot, or at least a couple of these. Not so that people can shimmy and shake and rave all over the place, you know, flailing, but actually so they'll be able to take some grains, whether that be rice or, you know, the oats that I'm currently growing, and they'll be able to get rid of the husks, right? That's actually going to help me produce some of the straw that I need, depending on what we grow. I don't think that rice gives you any straw, but stuff like oats absolutely does. So that's why we need to have a spot here so that we can actually, not quite shuck it, but that's kind of the word. I'm trying to remember what you actually officially shuck. It's corn, right? I'm pretty sure that's what you're supposed to. It actually kind of sounds like a rude word, doesn't it? But it's not. It's a very legitimate word. Something else I'm going to build down over here is a barracks where we'll be able to house and provide training for our soldiers and guards. Now, this is a very small one because I consider this to be a temporary measure, but we apparently do have a couple of militia guards that are with us over here. You can see these guys down here. Actually, if you go to our villagers, take a look at our domain, and under, not night guard, day guard, there they are. We have a couple of our guards over here who are not very happy. But we need to provide some place for them to sleep. So that's why I'm creating this small little barracks over here. Okay, expanding out the farm a little bit. There's another thing we need to get. This is a very, very high priority for us. It is going to be an inn. The inn is where we are going to be able to house some visitors for our town, but also a great way to attract additional families. What's the recommended minimum size for this thing? 15 by 15, huh? Well, we're probably not going to be able to quite do that, but I can go for, like, let's say 20 by 9, and I don't feel too bad about that. So let's go ahead and set up a lot of space over here for an inn. Now, this isn't going to be a very large inn to start us off, but we do have a few things I'm going to need. We need to get a bar, we need to get a cooking table, a cauldron, a well, we need to get some beds where people are going to be able to stay. All of that ends up being very, very important. So I'm envisioning something that's going to be kind of like this. Now, it might be a little overly ambitious for me to even set all of this up right now, but the goal is going to be to have a kitchen area where I'll be able to cook up some meals, and by some, I mean like a lot of them. Plus, we'll have a bar where I'll be able to sell that stuff off. Then people have a recreational room where they can kind of sit around and dine and just lounge for a bit. Also, a bedroom area where a bunch of visitors will be able to stay the night and pay some money to me. This is kind of the only way that we're going to be able to inject some money, like actual currency, into our economy. Because right now, everything is self-contained, right? They're paying taxes to me, but then I'm giving the money right back as their own little, I don't know, salary. I'm giving them everything they need. They're giving me everything they produce. We're not creating any wealth or value in the economy per se. We're just trying to become self-sustaining. But an inn is a way of people from the outside injecting some value into our economy that I'll then be able to spread elsewhere. And it's our best way of attracting some more families into our town. So that's why I want to get this thing up if we can. So I'm curious, do I actually already have a servant family? I'm kind of getting a feeling that maybe I do. Let's see. Ruler, council, laborers. Hello. Oh, what do you know? Yeah, I've actually already got two people who are serving me, including one who has some carpentry skill. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, what you're telling me is that I should probably go ahead and, like, build out the cottage. Okay, I'm fine with that. Let's go ahead and build out a cottage. I think it's kind of funny that the nobles actually have servants. Like, it used to be that your nobles would do a lot of the heavy lifting themselves, but No longer is that the case. They're really pushing the whole like I am better than you thing, which doesn't quite work for what I was saying for a somewhat communistic society. I was kind of envisioning, everyone pools resources and we dole it out to those who need it as one big community, at least for now, and then we'll kind of morph it into a feudalistic economy with the serfs doing their thing, and then if all goes according to plan, maybe even into a somewhat capitalistic society where people produce a lot of their own goods and start becoming self-sufficient in their own needs with the private means of production. But that's not necessarily going to happen here. We're going to lord it over people, apparently. And then I do give away a lot of the resources, but only because I am a nice lord. That's how we know I'm better than you. Well, the inn is kind of sort of done at this point. So the question is, how do we want to do this? I could try to grant this to a family, maybe the farmer's family, and have someone operate this thing. Because I don't think that we're going to operate this on our own. Could be wrong on how that's going to work. Let's see. If I were to give this up, I think I can cancel ownership later. I'm hoping we'd be able to get some additional families who join that are fairly large and able to manage this thing. But yeah, might have to go off to these guys. I don't know. Yeah, let's go ahead and hand that off to the Colville family. They will be paying me some taxes for the honor of running this place. I might have to cancel that ownership later. But for now, if you guys aren't actively working in the fields, I'd like for you to send 1 or 2 of your family members down over here to the inn, where you can manage this thing, and then hopefully we're going to find some visitors start to approach from the edge of the map and pop into the inn. Great way of getting some money, maybe decide to do some recruitment. A new family is asking to settle in here. I think we actually got our first round of some visitors, maybe. Yep, they're visiting over here. So I don't really benefit from additional fishing families. That's kind of the only issue here. I could potentially let them join just so that they can run the inn, but I think the answer to that is no. Fishing is not what I need. I'm hoping that the game is going to look at that with mercy and say, you know what? Maybe we send a different family over this way, and they just keep sending me more until I get a group I want. What I'm looking for is either maybe some more farmers or perhaps a forager, someone who can get me more consistent food. A carpenter wouldn't be bad either, and maybe eventually a tailor if we see the option. Another family has visited. Again, not what I'm looking for, though. Leatherworking? Nah. Also very tiny family. Yeah, wouldn't produce a lot of value. Unfortunately, we do seem to be running out of a lot of crucial resources. I no longer have access to, for example, planks and stuff. We've used up almost all of that, plus some of our straw. The good news is we are almost at the end of the spring season, and the beginning of every season means tax time. Ah, yes, tax payment day right here. Beautiful. All right, so they're going to transfer everything they've produced, everything, into my warehouse. Because again, they followed stewardship, which means I claim rights to every bit of their production. I took care of their basic needs. I put a roof over their head. I paid them, which they then paid back to me, but that's beside the point. Now I get all the goodies. So let's take a look down here. We have now 366 planks. Not bad, considering I was almost completely out before. Well, I was completely out before, now that I think about it. We do have only 229 straw. I'm going to admit that's probably not as much as I was hoping for, but okay. And then we have a lot of food here. Parsnips, rice grain, a bunch of fish, a whole load of carrots. Yep, all looking very good. So if we wanted to over here in the kitchen, now we can start converting a lot of this into some simple meals. For that, we would need to go to our domain for our people over here, then click on cooks. And I can say that we're going to have one person be a cook. Penelope Tyler, huh? Well, you are primarily a carpenter, but okay, we'll work with this. You can do some cooking for me. Go ahead and start prepping some food. I'm going to need to have plenty of that, not only to distribute amongst my people, but also just to make sure that we have some going to the inn. Right now, I'm just kind of letting our economy chug along at a pretty decent rate. I do need to make sure we get our cook actually working up over here. I have to figure out how to do that, but we're running a little bit low on meals. Besides that, though, the economy's kind of going the way I want it to. I think we're going to be producing plenty of food. That certainly seems to be going well. We're producing a good amount of straw. Come autumn, I am going to need to start placing some roofs, so more straw is actually going to end up being very important for me. We might want to set something like, let's say, oats and stuff as the top priority. Stop growing so much corn, stop growing so many melons and stuff. Just start getting me as much straw as possible in preparation for the winter. So I'm going to go ahead and change things like that up. Now, there's a lot more to this game than you're seeing just from this initial video. This is just me trying to get up a basic economy for some self-sustainment, right? But eventually we're going to want to move on to things like some production chains, and we're going to want to allow our villagers to sell things to each other, right? So that is where you would place down something like, let's say, a marketplace. And say I want to have one of those up over, let's say, this direction. We're not going to do anything with it right now, but I can own a marketplace zone. Then I would place down a bunch of storefronts over here, and what this would do is allow for families to take some goods if they own any of their own, which they don't, because, you know, I own all of it, but if they did get to keep any of it for themselves, they bring it to a storefront, and they could sell it to each other, and they would exchange money, right? That's how this would work. So in theory, at some point, instead of stewardship for the farming, we could allow the farming family to keep some of the product for themselves, and then they'll start selling it to each other, and that's how the other families are going to get food, but then they'll trade off, let's say, some of the wood these guys are going to need for firewood come winter, and so on. And goods and services go around, and we start becoming more and more hands-off with the economy, instead only taking the taxes I'm going to need in order to continue funding my own infrastructure projects, right? That's where the game is ultimately going to transition. For now, it's just way, way simpler to go with stewardship, and that's why I'm doing it. A carpentering family. Okay, see, now this actually could be kind of useful to me. I hadn't planned on bringing in carpeting right now, but since we're not getting any other stuff I might benefit from, this could kind of work. So let's go ahead and accept a fourth family in. So there we go, they have arrived from the inn, and that's how we get more people. So I've already set aside a zone over here for another household. I think we go ahead and assign this to the new family. Once again, fee farm, seems fine. Same rights as anyone else. And then, in the interest of keeping our farmers working where I need them the most, I'm going to cancel the ownership of the inn for that family. Instead, we're going to give it to the the carpenters. Let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And on that note, I think this might be a good place for us to end this video. So we're only about halfway through a year. I know, it's going to be a little while before we actually see... Whoa! Villager died in a fight? What? That's new to me. Okay, I don't know who died, but that seems absolutely freaking awful. There was a bear! Oh, well, that might have something to do with it. A dead bear over here, huh? Somehow I completely missed that. All right, anyway, we're going to end this video here. We've got a very basic rudimentary economy going here to meet some of our needs, at least at the beginning of the game. There's a lot more I'm going to need, and by a lot, I mean like an absolute ton more that I'm going to need, but it requires we get the right families in position, it requires that we get our food situation completely figured out, and basically that I don't mess it up. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you're looking forward to this series. If so, I'd ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Once again, thank you to Fulcrum Publishing for sponsoring this video. If you guys want to learn more about Lords and Villeins, you can find a link in the description down below. My name is Pravus. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.